Okay, so yes, you've heard us mention network version 21, a watermelon upgrade a bunch of times. It's gone live on calibration, and we're running up to 28th of November, where mainnet is going to switch over. There are a few FIPs, key FIPs in here. There's actually 7. I've linked all of them at the end, but the 3 major ones that are impacting SPs are the 3 that are on screen now. So that's FIP 52, increase max sector commitment to 3.5 years. FIP 59, synthetic PORET, and FIP 70 allow SPs to move partitions between deadlines. And all 3 of these are going to have a big, and I reckon, positive impact on SPs and how they operate. With regards to the 3.5-year sectors, this has been a long time coming. It kind of like got torpedo in the FIP 36, FIP 56 discussion, which went on for, as you know, a long time, but it is finally here. And it is you can apply this across your system that you currently have. So CC sectors can now be pledged with a 3.5-year duration. In order to do that, if you want to default to 3.5 years, you need to update the committed capacity sector lifetime setting in your minor config TOML. Your existing CC sectors can be extended to 3.5-year duration, and probably most importantly, deals can now be proposed and sealed with a 3.5-year term. And we know HPs have been asking that for a long time. I know there's a lot of money waiting on the sidelines waiting to come in for that. So that's a very welcome addition. Synthetic PORET, I have to say, this is a really kind of like outline overview. There's a hell of a lot of technical innovation that's got into synthetic PORET. I'd really encourage you to have a look at it at the links at the end if you want to have a look at the technical level. The CryptoNet team have done a really awesome job. The 3 things that really stick out for me in terms of SPs are the sealing queue and how we can further optimize the sealing queue. So the 11 layers generated in PC1, which accounts for 400 plus gigabytes, are now discarded immediately following PC2. Okay, so that obviously we no longer have to keep that 450 gigabytes through PC, through wait C, through C1, through C2 when it's finally discarded. It now gets discarded at the end of PC2. And importantly, this means a 90%, 98% reduction of storage utilization, which is prior to sending the pre-commit sector message. That's really important because it means we can batch a load more pre-commit sector message into one message. I mean, let's take an example. If I was one of my boxes, I have about 5 terabytes of sealing space of expensive NVMe sealing space. If I wanted if I want to seal 10 sectors and batch 10 sectors of pre-commit at the moment, I would have to have over 5 terabytes of storage used up at the same time. So 10 is pretty much my minimum. With my maximum mode, with this 98% reduction, I can seal 100 sectors up to pre-commit sector stage. All of that 550 gigabytes is reclaimed prior to sending the pre-commit sector message. So it means we can do a heck of a lot more batching. This is obviously not just good for SPs, but it's also good for the network because there's going to be considerably less pre-commit sector messages going on chain, which is obviously good for our future. There is one setting that you have to update in order to use this, and that's use synthetic PORET equals true in your minor config TOML. It's optional. So if you don't set it to true, you will continue to use the same system that we are using at the moment. And FIP 70, another popular one, much requested, allow SPs to move partitions between deadlines, and this has a ton of potential behind it. Obviously, you can optimize proving, you can consolidate partitions and deadlines. If you're like me, I've got 10 different deadlines, each one's got 50 in, one's got 1,500, one's got 300. I can move all of those into one partition. And that obviously, one deadline. That's obviously going to help not only with aligning with business hours, but it's going to maximize my resource utilization. So rather than having my GPU constantly spinning up over those 10 deadlines, it's going to just spin up over the one. And that's obviously going to be cost efficient because it's going to minimize expensive compute. There's a new Lotus command, which is Lotus minor actor move partitions. That's all you have to know, and you can move anything, all your current partitions into a deadline of your choosing. So as I've mentioned previously, what you need to be aware of, the Lotus team are going to be publishing 2 Lotus releases before the upcoming upgrade. There's 2 trains. The first one is Lotus version 1.24. This is built upon the current stable 123.3, and it's going to incorporate only the essential consensus breaking changes required for the MV21 upgrade. It's recommended for node operators and ecosystem operators who should prioritize, should we ecosystem service providers should prioritize this release. And we were told a few times over the last few years that having everything bundled into one release with all this massive amount of changes is really tough to implement for a lot of SPs, especially big SPs. So this one is just the bare essentials, which makes upgrading and actually getting ready for MV21 a breeze. And we also have our 125.0 release, which has all of the goodies, all of the other bits that have been developed over the last few months. This one is rooted in Lotus 123.4, combines all the changes for the network upgrade and also integrates features and improvements made since 123.3. And as a bonus, this one also contains the experimental SupraSeal C2 code, the 125.0 train. A lot of us are testing out now, and we're seeing really good stability, some really excellent results. Either one of those, the 124.0, 125.0, will have you ready for the MV21 upgrade. 124.0 RC2 is available now. 125.0 RC1 is available now. Okay, now this is really important because this has been quite a long time in between MV19 and MV20, which you maybe remember was the expedited upgrade because of the network bloat. That was around May, so it's been a few months. There's been quite a bit of innovation in between them, quite a few features that have been released. If you are upgrading for an earlier version, such as Lotus version 122.0, there are a few changes you need to be aware of that you'll need to sort out before you actually upgrade. So if you're going to opt for the Lotus 124.0 train, so that's the basic one, just with the consensus breaking changes, a Go version of 119.12 or higher is required. Go version 121 is not supported. If you're going to opt for the 125 release chain, you first of all will need to clone a new Lotus repo when upgrading to this version because of some FFI dependencies. And Go version 120.7 or higher is required. Again, 121 is not supported. And let me just go back. Sorry. Another thing to bear in mind is that split store has now been enabled by default. So this is going to be default for all new nodes. Existing users now need to explicitly set enable split store in the daemon config toml prior to launch. So it's not you can't just say, okay, I'm just going to use the default. You need to explicitly set either enable split store true or false. If you don't do that, Lotus will fail to start, but it will give you a very clear message as to why it has failed to start and what you need to change. In this case, enable split store. Also a change since 122.0 is CUDA is now enabled by default. Many of you use CUDA anyway. You'll obviously need a CUDA installation and a working CUDA installation to spin up and to run as you normally would. You can still opt to use OpenCL by setting the FFI use OpenCL equals 1 flag when building from source, or of course disable GPU entirely using the FFI use GPU equals 0. Those flags still work, but CUDA is now the default. Something that you may have in your scripts, your automated scripts that you will need to change is if you are using Lotus -sectors renew command, this has been deprecated and all functionality moved to the Lotus -sectors extend command. So if you're using the renew command in your scripts, make sure you change that over. Nothing's gone. Everything is still possible that you used to use with renew. It's just now moved to the extend. And service providers, please know that execution traces have changed. So this is changes introduced by the FVM. So if you're running services, please refer to the 123.0 release notes where you'll have further details on what you need to change and how this impacts you. Again, I've linked that at the end. So all of the scope discussion where you can see more about the core dev discussion about what was included in MV21 is linked to the top there. We've got the 3 FIPs that I discussed at the top. The 4 below that are more behind the scenes, so they're not going to have an immediate impact on SP. So we've got deterministic state access, improved event syscall API, remove beneficiary from self-destruct syscall, and FVM randomness FIP. These are all things that are improving the network or that we are doing now for future features. We're laying the foundations now. Again, none of those are going to have a massive impact, any visible impact on your SP operations. The top 3, yes, the bottom 4, no. And there's a link to the execution traces changes, link to both 124 RC2 and 125 RC1 releases. And if you'd like to try the SupraSeal out in 125 train, then the tutorial which the team has popped up on the doc site is also there. That's it from me. Any questions at all?
That's it. That was a ton. So if you want any of the new features, you should go to the 25 release, correct? So
That's
that includes the non-interactive ProRep and stuff, or the synthetic ProRep.
synthetic PoRep, yeah. I mean, both releases will include synthetic PoRep, but because that's a consensus breaking change. But I mean, for things like SupraSeal, for some of the other things that we've put in the 124 branch, so non-critical changes, but changes that SP sometimes find useful. But if you go to the 1.240 that I've linked in the links there, you'll see all of the stuff that's listed. And I mean, this is really kind of, it's not, it's an opinion of the team that as we've been testing this over the last few days and we've known what's coming up, you might see something else in all of this that you think is a massive bonus as well. This is kind of a subjective overview. So yeah, feel free to add on if there's anything else that you think is a bonus as well.